Hey, what's going on everyone? Dark Matter Editing here, bringing you another Vegas Pro tutorial. So in today's tutorial, we're going to be focusing on tracks and track editing. So this is something that's going to be an important concept when you're setting up your project for the first time. So we're going to go ahead and bring our mouse over to the far left corner, and we're going to right click, and you're going to have a couple different options. We're going to focus today on audio and video tracks. So the first thing I like to do is add an audio and video track. So I'm going to right click and add both of these. So now that they're set up, I always like to keep the audio track on the bottom. Just personal preference, it doesn't really matter in most cases, but I would just stick to this format if you're learning for the first time. And to move these around, you can click and drag up and down. Now, there's no real limit to how many of these you can have, but keep in mind that it's going to get very cluttery if you have too many of these tracks, because you can just keep right-clicking and adding more. So for this tutorial, I'm going to have 2 video tracks and an audio track. And let's go ahead and start bringing in some content. So under the Project Media tab here, top left corner, I'm going to hit this Import Media button. And then what I'm going to do is navigate to my folder with my stock footage and audio. So I have an ocean scene and a desert scene. I'm going to bring these 2 ones in, hit open. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my ocean sounds. Import, sounds, and then ocean waves. And then I'm going to start today just by dragging this ocean scene over into the timeline. I'm going to hit no on this. Then I'm going to bring my ocean waves and drag this onto the audio layer. Now what I'm going to do is also trim this so it matches the video. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you the mute button. So I'm going to mute this whole track for the audio. Now the reason I'm doing this is because this isn't synced up, so even though these sound effects are ocean waves, I haven't spent any time syncing it to the actual video. The way you would do that would be you could just drag this over, move it around, manipulate it, and kind of trim it to fit how the sounds are in sync with the video. But we're just going to pretend like we've already done that. And so I'm going to bring this back over. So next what I'm going to show you is, so not only can you mute audio, but actually what you're doing when you hit this M key is you're actually making it invisible or hidden. So isn't it so much that you're making it not hearable as it is, it's just like not part of the entire project. That's kind of the best way to see that. So if you hit the M on this video track, you'll notice everything goes black because now it's just invisible. So I'm going to unmute that. And then what I'm going to do next is show you the S button, which is solo. Now this is pretty simple to understand. I'm going to go ahead up into my project media and bring over this desert clip. Drag that down. I'm going to trim it a bit. Now you'll notice that right now you see the ocean background. And that's because this layer is on the top. If I had dragged this underneath the desert's going to show up because the one on the top is always going to be the dominant. I'm going to bring this back up. So what I'm going to do next is, there's 2 ways to do this. If you solo the layer, I'm going to solo this desert scene. That's going to bring the desert scene into the foreground. Now if I unclick that and then solo the ocean scene, you're going to notice nothing really happened. But what that actually does is it makes the desert scene invisible. Now the way I can show you how you can tell is if you click on the top of this video clip and then you drag down the opacity, you'll notice that it is true that this desert scene is hidden because we've soloed the ocean. So if we unsolo, now you'll see the ocean kind of faded and then the desert scene in the background. Kind of a cool little technique depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm going to bring this back to 100. The other thing I want to show you too on the audio track is this pan option here. So what this is if you think of 2 speakers on a desk or maybe your headphone left and right. Let's say this audio for some reason was only playing out your right speaker. You could take this slider and move it all the way to the left, and what would happen is all your audio would now play 100% out your left speaker instead. Now, in theory, what you want to do here is balance it out. You want, half and half. So maybe you'll go to, I don't know the exact number, but maybe you'll go to 50%. And so now what's going to happen is you'll have audio playing out the right and left based on how this audio clip was composed. So that's what this does. I use this a lot when I'm editing. What you can do too is, let's say you only want one item or one audio clip to be affected. You can right click, go to insert audio track, and I'm going to hit Control C on this audio clip here, and then Control V. And then maybe I'll move this forward a bit. So on your timeline here, what you'll notice is, although the first clip here is going to be played 50% on the left, we're going to assume that this audio clip is okay and there was no issues with it. Now, as the timeline moves forward, once it hits this second audio clip, it's going to be normal. Alright everyone, so we're going to go ahead and move into our next topic of discussion, which is called compositing modes. Now, compositing modes is something that I use quite frequently when I'm editing content, and I think you will as well after you learn how to do it. So you'll notice that I've added an earth scene into the background, and I've created a new video track, and I put that above the original two, the desert and the ocean. So to demonstrate, what you'll notice here is the earth scene in the background is pretty much all black with the exception of some stars. What we're going to do is go on the far left where these three dots are and click on that. Then we're going to go to compositing mode, and then you'll notice that there's a whole slew of different options. What we're going to do is select screen. This is the one that I use most frequently. And what that does is it eliminates all the black without enhancing like the glow of the image. And what I mean by that is if I was to choose a different one, say like add, you'll notice that basically it's the same thing except it's added more of a glow effect to the Earth image. And depending on the look you're going for, that could be pretty practical. So you can play around with these settings. You don't really need to know what they mean, but it is helpful if you're trying to achieve a certain objective. Like if you're just trying to eliminate the black without adding extra glow, knowing what screen does can help speed up your composite. And so if I hit play, you'll notice that it continues to play in the background, and that can add some really interesting effects and visual art to your video. Alrighty, so the last thing I want to show you is compositing levels. So you'll notice that on the video tracks, you're going to have the 100% level. What this is kind of like another version of opacity, but it affects your entire track. So if you had a bunch of these, for example, on one track, let's bring these over. You can, like, let's say you change this to 50%. Now everything's going to play at half opacity. Let me go ahead and go back to compositing mode and turn this back to source. So now when you hit play, every single time it moves to the next clip, the one on the top is going to be at 50%. And so this can be really important when you're editing as well. And then on the audio part, they don't have compositing level, they have volume. So if I unmute this, you'll see the decibels, and you can drag this bar around. And you could either make it quieter or you can make it louder. And you can also double click to type in here. So you can kind of make that your own there. Alright, so that about wraps it up. I'm going to get into some more advanced tutorials in the near future. So stay tuned for that, and please like and subscribe for more.